Hello, everyone. I think we're live again. It is so good to be with you. It's Tim Topham here, and that fantastic smiling face on the other side of your screen is Nicola Canton. And we wish to welcome you to day 3 of the Piano Pivot. We are right in the middle, smack bang in the middle of the Piano Pivot now. And today's focus is all about your teaching. We've had the big brainstorm. We've narrowed in on some of our goals for health and our personal lives. We've zoomed back out. We've looked at our students and what we want to achieve for them. Now we're going to zoom back in again, and we're going to really focus on how to get our students to that place by our teaching. So while we wait for people to log in and say hi, as always great to see people say hi, let us know who's here. I'll be really impressed too. There's some people who've been getting up at 5 o'clock. Those in Hong Kong, Singapore, and Perth, and perhaps a few other places. So if you're in one of those time zones, I want you to let us know, remind us that you are watching live at 5 a.m. because you are superstars. Yeah. It's been so much fun. Nicola and I were just talking before we hit play or record about how we've been so enjoying seeing all the feedback coming back from you guys, all the developments, the planning that you're doing. And I thought I'll just start with a few that I've picked out, Nicola, and then I'll hand over to you for some of your own, because I couldn't help but print out some of these things so I could show you on the screen.
This is so fun.
Okay, so this is April. April's student. I just like the colouring. I mean, April's done some amazing work as well with all the areas, but I was just gripped by the colouring there. So the great thing to read about was just the variety of things that you're thinking about for your students. Like, you're not just thinking they need to read and have a beautiful technique and perform. The depth, like there's some things that I haven't even thought of, like patience and perseverance, tenacity and grit. This is what April had on hers. I thought, oh, this is great. I mean, I haven't thought of lots of these things, so that was great. It was good to see. I also had a look at David Barton. It was great to have him on the call. His PhD that he's studying at the moment is all about this very topic of how to decide what to give students when there is no curriculum and you're developing it yourself. That was fantastic. So it was great to have a look at David's. Dana, I really liked what she was saying. She mentioned this word grit as well. So I thought that was great. There was also, of course, the fabulous Sharon Ellum. Let me see if did I print that out? Now, if those of you who didn't see this, Sharon went double page spread. Look at this. And the thing I really like about this is that she decided to split this activity into 2 sections. What I want my dream student to be now and what I want them to be in the future. Sharon, just fantastic, and blown away by the depth of the thinking you've done, and also obviously the presentation. Really, really cool. And so that was a really interesting, Nicola. I thought that could be a future if we do this activity again, actually splitting it into a now and then.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. And I did want to mention something in regard to yesterday from Vanessa Adams. So Vanessa said, I've written and erased my ideal student at least 4 times now. Nicola and Tim talked about reading, oral, and composition skills. I tried to factor those in. But in all honesty, my ideal student does not need to be capable any of those. I want my students to build self-awareness and self-confidence. I want them to be happy with their level of knowledge, whatever that level is. My ideal student would love music. I know it's not the intended answer, but it is how I teach, and it is what's important to me. And I thought, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we all want our students to love music and have that self-awareness and perseverance and grit, as people have been saying. All I'd be suggesting to Vanessa is that we want to still build that roadmap of how to get there. How do you get your students to have that engagement that's so deep that they love it? And so that's where I was hoping that we'd all be breaking down as much as possible into some of those segments. So that's just a thought, but just so great that you guys are sharing so openly all these ideas. Nicola, what did you find?
I found some great. So I've been digging into the actual photo uploads as well, because I just find them so fun to look at, and I love all the colors and everything. So you always get bonus points if there's highlighters all over it for me. I had one, Susan, who talked about musical literacy. she had a really interesting post actually, and she was a bit doubtful because everyone else was talking about these arrow skills and all this stuff. And her goal was that they had musical literacy, that they enjoyed music for life. So similarly to that comment, getting at the same idea. And I thought that was interesting. So she had really targeted all these different areas that would help with that then, to build that foundation of musical literacy, just average musicians sort of thing, rather than aiming for this performance goal. Louise was really interesting as well, because she talked about problem solvers, which she included that she wanted her students all to be problem solvers, that she wanted them to be able to practice efficiently and effectively as one of her key goals for her students, one of the key skills. I thought that was really interesting.
Problem solver, yes.
Yeah, problem solver is a great way to put it.
That's one of those key skills that students need in every aspect of their life in the future. If there's one thing, critical thinking, problem solving, communication, right? So that's a great one.
It's one of those keys that you can carry through, that music studies can actually help you with, life.
Totally.
Yeah. And then Sharon's mood board, I mean, incredible. So Tim already showed you this. It's like a whole mood board with all these cutout shapes on it. It's incredible. Go look at it if you haven't already. But one of the things she said on that is, for her future of the student, was that she wanted them to be great musical parents. Did you notice that in the corner?
I missed that. No.
Yeah.
Great one,
so
Sharon.
She said she wanted them to vibrantly lead a musical family and encourage music in their kids. And I just thought that was wonderful, that one of her goals is that we pass this on to the next generation again, right? So she's passing it forward and forward.
Wow, let's see a heart. Let's see a heart for Sharon. Come on, everyone.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Sharon's amazing. And then the final one I wanted to share was Julie, because hers lined up so closely. I have something so similar written on mine. I completed mine myself. Tim, did you see? I actually did my homework today.
Oh, okay. I've got to check it out.
So I had something similar written on mine, but she said it much better. She said, singing and not caring if they don't sound like Tay-Tay or Kesha is the way she put it. So I'm presuming that's Taylor Swift.
Right.
I just thought that was awesome as a goal. Just singing just for the love of it, not caring what they sound like.
I think that's great too, yeah. And we talked a fair bit about oral and singing, and I mentioned my experience with that. I think that's great. I teach a lot of boys, and sometimes they can be a little bit reticent to sing, can be a little bit of a dirge sometimes, but it's amazing what happens when you encourage students to just give it a shot. And I've found some absolute magnificent singers in my group who I'd never known about otherwise. So, yeah, it's worth persevering with the singing. No, that's great. Well, look, thank you so much, everyone. I saw all the hearts come across for Sharon. I hope she sees that when she watches it. And I did see we did have at least one 5 a.m.er. Caroline.
We definitely got 2.
We got 2. You guys,
Caroline,
absolutely impressive.
Ken is going to do this every day, he says, this week.
Oh, Ken, you're back as well. Yeah.
Superstar.
Hello to you in Singapore. And Rebecca, 9 p.m, can I be a superstar too? Well, yeah, all right, why not? You're all superstars, guys. And good to see Linda as well. She's been on every day too. All right, so let's get stuck into today, folks. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be deciding what we should be focusing on in our teaching and what downloads, courses, and activities you should be buying, printing, and spending time on. And this is going to be great because for the rest, we're going to say, forget it. So this is where the beating through the overwhelm comes into things. That file of activities that you've got sitting next to the piano that you think you're going to use one day, we're going to actually work out what you should be focusing on now. And the rest of it, we're just going to get rid of for now, okay? So we've pictured the ideal student, and you know what he or she will be able to do when they've finished lessons with you. So now, how do you get there? What would you like your students to be able to do? That was yesterday. So today, what activities do we need to prioritize to get there? And what learning do you need to do? What do we need to do personally to achieve that level for our students? So step 1, the top 5 things. We need to narrow down our choices from yesterday. Yesterday was an open brainstorm, as we said. Now I want you to choose just 3 to 5 things. Now, regardless of how many you choose today, we're not going to try and attempt to do 5 new things in our lessons if these are all new, okay? So don't get stressed about there being too much to do. That's okay. What I'd like you to do, though, is start narrowing down from yesterday to the top 3 or 5 that you could start writing here. And we can do this actually while we're talking today. But I want you to keep one really important thing in mind, because there are a few standard things that, in my opinion, should be common to all teaching. And so I don't think it's necessary to write these down. And the 2 things are reading and technique, right? So in all our teaching, we should be focusing on helping our students become better readers and to give them an appropriate technique. And by teaching them to read, they're going to be playing. So there's kind of those 3 aspects are already covered. And if you've seen in your workbook, if you just turn over the page of your workbook, you'll see this sheet, which is called my 3 keys sheet. You might have seen me present about this on a Facebook Live recently, and I talked about it in a podcast. What this gives you is a little overview of just one little approach to organizing your lesson thinking into 3 areas. The red area is technique activities, and there's 3 different ideas there. The green area is repertoire, and the bottom area is creative. Now, this is just my approach. You obviously know I love the creative aspect. So this might be the thing that we're not worrying so much about at the moment, because you've got to choose what you do there. But the top 2 areas, I'm just suggesting when it comes to choosing your top 3 or 5 today, you don't have to fill them up with reading and technique, because what I'm saying is they're a given. Does that make sense, Nicola?
Yeah, it totally makes sense. I mean, it's the way we run a standard lesson, so we don't need to think about including the method book and the technique work, because we all kind of do that for the most part. Yeah. Right.
So we're talking about, I guess, the next level teaching ideas, right? So I mean, if I was thinking about teaching maths, which funnily enough I have done at one stage in the past, every maths teacher would teach addition and subtraction, but not every maths teacher would give students a really fun practical problem about running a shop to put that into practice, or building a bridge to put that into practice. That's the kind of next level teaching. We all teach technique and reading, but what's your next level thing that's going to get you to that ideal student outcome? So that's what I just wanted you to keep in mind while you do this activity. So guys, grab a pen and let's start doing this now. Maybe a pencil's a good idea. As I say, you're going to probably change this at some stage, and that's totally cool. If you wanted one other little suggestion, you can see here, I've actually written over here all lessons. So the 3 things that I'd cover in all lessons, just to keep it front and center. And over here will be your top 3 goals. So what I'd like you to do, when you've had a chance to do this, I want you to put down your number 1. If you haven't done this in order, that's okay. See if you can just order them. Just write number 1, 2, and 3 as to the most important. And if you can write that one in the comments. I know we're moving quickly today, but we've just got to make a decision on some of this. So just get going. Just write it down. Just what is the most crucial thing in your opinion? So, for me, one of the things that I really want to prioritize is that my students can pick up a piece of music and be able to read it fairly quickly. Now, that doesn't mean sight reading necessarily. Well, it does kind of mean sight reading, but it means more than that. So I want students to be able to pick up a piece of, let's say, an Elton John song and know that, they don't have to read all those notes because there's those chord symbols above, and I want them to know that they can play this using those chord symbols. So in my teaching, I would need to prioritize chords, chord progressions, and reading lead sheets. So they could be my top 3. Does that make sense with everyone? I hope so.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. We already have one in from Dana. She says, number 1 is practice effectively. That's her number 1 goal.
Fantastic. Yeah. I actually had a little breakthrough with a student yesterday. He is 12 or thereabouts, about to go into high school. And I started him off on a Chopin waltz, that A minor waltz, da ba ba bum bum ba da dum, which I thought would just be way too hard for him because he doesn't do all that much practice. And we've been having lots of fun with pop and all sorts of, relatively easy things. And his mum said to me the other day, I think he needs something harder, and I think he's ready. And she's a musician as well, so I thought, all right, let's do it. And you know what? He came back and he had practiced so much, and he couldn't stop playing it. He loved it, and he worked out half of the first section hands together, and we worked on the pedal and the phrasing. It was great. So I love that. Practicing effectively is so crucial. There's no doubt. Okay, so that's step one. Hopefully people are still with us and have been able to choose. I know it's really hard, guys. Did you have a top 1, 2, or 3, Nicola, that you would choose?
After reading and technique.
Yeah.
I don't know whether this would actually be the number one, but something I'm hugely focused on at the moment is the playing with the students thing. So I have students playing endless duets because I've got this overlapping time in my lessons now. So I have them playing a lot more together, and it's made a huge difference to their reading and all that other stuff. But I'd say that would be one of my top priorities at the moment, to get better and better at teaching them to play well together and listen properly.
Right.
They're getting better over time, you know.
Yeah, and it is hard. Caroline has just said it is hard. Yes, and the other thing that Nicola just said, I don't know if you all picked it up, is at the moment. She said, I'm trying this at the moment, and that is totally cool. So this philosophy and goals worksheet that you're working on today is not set in concrete at all. Okay, so just don't freak out too much about it. It will adjust and change as you go, and that's the great thing about that we're able to do. We're not waiting for the exam board or Board of Education to tell us what we've got to teach next. We can choose that. There you go, Dana. We've now know your 1, 2, and 3. So come on, everyone, let's give us some of your number ones. Dana's just told us all her first 3. That's brilliant. Kathy says, play, practice, and think musically. Think musically. Sounds like an Apple tagline. I like it.
And then there's this improv as well. Ooh, yeah, lots of really interesting comments coming in. Awesome.
Beautiful. So we'll feed back to those in just a moment. What I'm going to do now is keep us moving. So we're going to move on to the next section. So the next to do for all of you guys is, for each of your goals in step 1, we're going to write the corresponding things you need to do in lessons to achieve that goal. Now, there may be more than one thing for each of your goals. So we're going to try and make number 1 in the first list correspond with number 1 in the second list, etc. Okay. Now, I'm actually going to adjust this section a little bit. So I want you to add an extra column. So see this? So here's my sheet. Can you guys just all add an extra column here in this second section? Because what I want to do here on the side is actually give us an opportunity to say when might be the best time to do these things with students. And I bring this up because as I was preparing this, I was thinking, you know what? Someone might have this goal of a really big, they really want to get their students to sight read just on the spot like that. And it might be that a group sight reading club or session or weekend activity every month might be the best way to do that. It might not be possible to do that in the lesson as much. Or perhaps it's an improv, like getting students to be really good at improv. Maybe I know Linda Irvin, who's on the call, she does themes, and maybe you choose a theme for the month, and at the end of the month, again, you get together for a group class, and that's all about improv, and that's when you do that thing. Because, of course, I want to give you the option to consider whether you're going to be able to fit some of these activities into your lessons, because if you are teaching those 30-minute lessons, this is going to be really hard. So what I guess I'm suggesting is think outside the box a little bit. You don't necessarily have to do all of these things in every single lesson. There might be an opportunity, like Nicola does, I think you do anyway, Nicola, to do some of these things in group or pair kind of sessions at a different time. And that could give you a little bit of flexibility, I guess. So here's what we're going to do. In the end column, we're going to write down whether you'll be able to do this in lesson or whether this could really work as a camp, group, weekend, masterclass or something like that. So over here, if that activity that you've chosen up here, so let's say it's practicing effectively. So we'll take Dana's first one. So down here, I would write... So the activities that I'd need to prioritize is maybe it's getting students to practice for a few minutes at the start of a lesson in front of me so I can see what they're actually doing. Maybe it's using some of Nicola's practice physician's handbooks, tools on it, whatever it is. That would be something that's done in the lesson. That wouldn't make sense to do it outside of a lesson, really. But maybe for the improv idea, So maybe if getting kids improvising is up here, maybe that's something that you do in the lesson, but then you also could do in a little group or a summer workshop or something like that. Does that make sense, Nicola, what I've done with that?
Yeah, totally makes sense. So think outside the standard lesson format, and like you're saying, improv or something like that. Even I have done actually practice workshops, so that could be one.
Right.
But yeah, getting group classes, or whether you want to go like me and start overlapping almost all your lessons because you've discovered that actually you'd love students to be playing duets or improvising together or playing games every single week. If that's one of your goals, then maybe that's something you can work towards. So yeah, thinking about it both ways in the lesson and if there's any extra place it needs to go to.
Fantastic. So interesting here, I've just seen Christine Greer has said, number 1, think musically. Now, so Christine, when it comes to section 2, activities you need to prioritize in lessons to get students to think musically, that's when you're going to have to really dig deep and think, how am I going to get my students to think musically? Is it about the questions I ask them? Is it about letting them unpack music themselves or compose music themselves? I'll be really interested to hear if you've got any thoughts on that, Christine, too.
Yeah, or does thinking musically mean something like audiation to her? You know, it could be a different definition of that. And then you might want to look into music learning theory and getting to know that and stuff like that. So
yeah.
Depends on what it means.
Joanne's got a great question. Did you see that, Nicola? How influenced is everyone else by their own weaknesses?
Oh, so
E.g., 2 of my list is to be able to play in public whenever and wherever, which is both of my biggest weaknesses. Yeah. Joanne, this is so important. And I know so many people are pushed out of their comfort zones by a lot of the suggestions I've made over the years with, let's play pop, let's throw out the books and teach with no books and things like that. I think that is a really great point to bring up. It's the greatness of teaching and your passion if you can go down one of these paths that is not your weakness. And I tell you, you'll learn a lot and grow from it.
Yep, you can learn alongside your students, absolutely.
Yeah, yep. No, that's very, very cool. Okay, so hopefully you're starting to fill out this middle section now. So you've got the activities that are hopefully going to get you to these priorities, which will be getting you to the end goal of your student, right? That's the flow. Yes. And remember too, if you've got that space, you can add an extra column over here just to say, if some of these things don't really fit into a lesson, could you do something outside of the lesson context over there? All right. So I'll let Nicola keep having a look at some of the comments. I'll go on to the last section, and that is the section on learning that I need to do. So this is the bit down the bottom here. And I've said /things to practice and develop for myself. It was great to read a lot of people talking about improving their own practice or practicing more. In fact, just sitting down at the piano
just getting there.
Own pleasure, right? I struggle with this too. I have the best intentions. I'm actually trying to play the Bach Busoni Chacon. I've been trying to play it for many years. And
what are those?
It's an absolute beast. And I have a great week. And then life gets in the way and it's so frustrating. So one thing I just wanted to mention in regard to that, if one of your goals, and I did see one of my example sheets that I printed out, someone had, now I can't remember whose this one is. If this looks familiar to you, please, if this is your writing, please just mention it in the comments. I'm so sorry I didn't write it down. This person had 3 goals. This is going back to our day 2. Proper diet, quality sleep, and then personal practice. And I'll just mention some of the sub-goals for the personal practice. Set alarm to practice 3 times a week. I mean, it's what we have to do for students to practice as parents, right? It's what we have to do for ourselves too. I certainly do it off. Block it off, set an alarm, schedule 4 days a week in the calendar. That was her February goal. And then in March, schedule 5 days or sessions a week. So just building it up. And then her end goal was an LLCM exam in June. How cool is that? So I thought that was really interesting to bring up. But when it comes to practice, the learning I need to do, it might be that your practice at the piano is actually related to one of these 2 things. So maybe you actually need to practice how to or research how to get students to practice effectively, or research the improv activities that would work. Okay, so that's what we're going to do in this last section. So, and this is where the breaking through the overwhelm comes in. Well, I hope it does anyway for you. So this is where, those files and games and activities and courses that you've never used, now is the time to decide what stays and what goes. Because if you've got a whole lot of activities that are now unrelated to where you're trying to go in your teaching and for your students, then you can set that aside. And how refreshing and what a great feeling is that going to be, I'll tell you what. So let's just talk about, let's, as an example, right? If you've downloaded something about classical music performance, or you've got a whole lot of masterclasses backlogged in your YouTube that you haven't watched and you really think you should do, that could be something that you ignore unless you've got one of your passions and one of your student goals is to really become amazing high-level performers. Or maybe you've suddenly got 10 advanced students and you really need to upskill on that. So that's where you would be focusing your attention. Otherwise, it's okay to leave it. Another example might be if you've downloaded a whole lot of games for preschoolers, but you've decided that, your students... Yeah, you don't really like teaching them. Your students are mainly teenagers, and that's not going to suit them, so get rid of them. Just, unless you really think that in the future you're going to start teaching that age group. So
don't get somebody out, just get rid of them.
No, just get rid of it, yeah, that's right. So really start focusing. Yeah, focusing on what you need to do to get there. So the other part of this is, where can you go if some of these ideas that you've mentioned, let's say, I'm just going to have a look through, thinking musically. If the ability to help students think musically is something you need more help with, where are you going to go to try and get that help? Is that something that you could Google and try and find blog articles about? Same with improv or memory, for example, improving students' memory. Are there books out there that would be good? Have you heard of courses? Now, what I'd like you to do too, if you've got any questions for our Brains Trust on the call, then pop a question in the comments. If you've got a goal, but you're unsure of how to get there or where you could find help for that, I want you to write a question on there right now so that we can all help you, because there is a lot of stuff out there, as we all know, and if we can guide each other to the best resource, that would be great. Okay, so that's our last section today, learning that I need to do, or things that I need to practice as a teacher and get better at in order to achieve the goals higher on the page. Nicola, any thoughts on that, or have I covered that pretty well?
I think you've covered that really well. I think the important part is that it has to be related to a goal above. So don't start writing down stuff you have in your head that you think you might want to read or do or see or whatever. Don't let it become that space. It has to be directly related, as Tim was saying, like 1 = 1 = 1, that they are all related to each other. I think it's really important that each one targets each other. Otherwise, we could be just adding more stuff. So, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's exactly right. And we're trying to help you cut down the amount of information you need access to at one time. Ken, great to read. He said, be able to create a simple accompaniment to nursery tunes in various keys. Or all keys. I don't know. You'd probably start with just a few major keys, I guess. So, Ken, the question would be, that's an activity you'd like your students to be able to do. So what would you prioritize in lessons to get there? So maybe that's an ability to harmonize. So hear a melody, they need to know what key it's in, what main chords are available, and be able to put them in the left hand. So that would be 3 activities. Now, perhaps if that's not something that you're very strong on, you would think, okay, well, who does chord stuff for piano teachers online, and find out who that is. And maybe I might have some resources. I'll just say it. I might have some resources to help you. Does that make sense? Yeah. I hope that helps, Ken.
Yeah. Joanne says she needs a curriculum for teaching harmonizing chords. Try it. So we've just answered that. You need to go on to Tim's site because he can definitely help with that. Getting the very basics and then progressing logically is what she's looking for. So yeah, that's you.
That's what I do. That's my thing. Yeah. If there's nothing more I love helping piano teachers with, it's chords, harmonizing, and all that great stuff. Yeah. Linda says it gives a huge sense of self-satisfaction when you achieve or do something you never thought you could. So just start small with some of these ideas. Good on you, Linda. You've had some amazing achievements this year. So congratulations on those. Keep it up.
Yeah. Kathy says she wants to be able to improve her memorization, and help students to be able to do this. There's a few, I can't think of a book, but one blog that's great for stuff like that on a real sort of analytical scale is Bulletproof Musician. If you don't know that one, I would read that for filtering it into your own practice and then sort of dilute it down, and you can use that for students. But if you're looking for stuff for yourself, that's where I'd go.
Yep. Christine came back rethinking musically. So she said, my activities would be centered around musical chatter between the student and I. Sometimes it could be questions and answers. It could be copycat rhythm or melody games or improv chord progressions using a theme. Whatever encourages them to express themselves creatively. Nice. The only comment I'd make on that is I'm always trying to chat less and talk less in lessons. So I get what you're saying, fun banter, talking about music is really important. But I also often find myself talking too much. So it's a fine line we all walk there.
Make sure you're asking short questions and getting the student to go off on a tangent, I think, rather than you going on and on about something and they're just glazing over. Yeah.
And another good little tip that I learned as a classroom teacher is to not let students off when they're struggling for an answer. It's so easy to just come in and go, oh, well, you obviously don't know that, so here's the answer. Just let them struggle. Students need to struggle to get better. So if you ask them a question, don't answer it, just let them struggle for it. And then eventually, if you need to help them, you can.
Yeah.
All right, I'm just having a look through, just catching up with these comments here. So yeah, keep any questions or thoughts, any of your number ones. If you haven't jumped in and let us know your number one, that would be great. I can see we've just ticked over the 30-minute mark, so we will start wrapping up soon. So while Nicola can keep a quick eye on the comments there, I thought I'll mention a few things about tomorrow and what we're doing. So tomorrow we're opening up our closets, everyone, and exposing all your music. In fact, Nicola, you're going to be running this day. Do you want to give us a quick overview of what we're doing tomorrow? We're really taking a tangent, aren't we? We're going a different direction.
We are, although if you have the clarity around your students' goals, I think that's going to be your goals for your students. I think that's going to be really helpful when we come to cull your music. So we're going to be forcing you to get organized and take a hard look at your sheet music and all the books you're keeping and the stuff you're ordering every single day, and making you ask yourself whether it's really, really relevant to what you want for your students and the goals you have. And maybe you've had stuff for like 5 years and you've always thought, oh yeah, this will be cool someday, I'll use this. And you never have. So you're never going to, is the answer there, probably. So we're going to be helping you sort of analyze what you really need, set a good budget that you can stick to for the music that you buy for students, and make it work for you rather than just surrounding you in your studio.
Yeah, digital hands up, everyone, if you buy too much music without thinking. Yes, okay, all the hands have gone up. So that's what we're helping you break through, because information overwhelm can happen in many areas. It's not just blogs, podcasts, and things in your inbox. It's shelves and shelves of music. I wonder if we'll be sharing photographs of our before and after music.
Oh, that'd be so fun.
That'd be kind of cool, yeah. So, as usual, everyone will be following up with questions and comments during the day. So feel free, if you're watching this as a replay, thank you very much for joining us, of course, and feel free to continue asking questions. You don't need to, I don't think we need to post any pictures today particularly. I mean, you can always share this if you'd like. At any time you can share any parts of your playbook, but there's no compulsion necessarily today. And I just wanted to give you a really quick reminder about something we're doing on Friday, which if you can start thinking about and preparing for now in the next 2 days, it's going to be great. Friday is all about business. And one of the things we're going to do is take a snapshot of 1 month of your income and expenditure, right? Now, this is going to be new for some people. It might be something that you do and go through every month yourself, and that's great. If this is a little bit new, I'd like you to, and you'd want to do it with us on the call on day 5, then I'd like you to take a snapshot, get a sample month's worth of income and expenditure. And I want you to think of everything. So that includes your mortgage payments or your lease payments, your air conditioning, your power, gas, utility, every single expense that contributes to your ability to run a music lesson. And we're going to put it all into one document, and we're going to work out what actually we're making, okay? Now, if you don't get time to do this before Friday, before day 5, that's okay, because you'll be able to do it after that. But if there's a few people at least live with us who are doing this as we go, I think it's going to be a really interesting experiment. Could be a little bit scary, could be really good.
I was going to say, don't quit just because Tim's talking about scary business stuff. It's still going to be nice and fun, and you should come.
Nicola, I love you. You are just so warm and friendly. If it was just me, no one would be watching anymore, I don't think. They all come for you and your smile. Lynn has said, I'm too scared to do that, with a smiley cry face. Yep. Catherine says, gulp. So yes, guys, this is the chance, okay? This never really happens, and so it's a really good opportunity to work out where you actually sit. And if you've ever been feeling that you're not getting paid enough, or you're not charging enough, I should say, or you're never really getting on top of your income, or you're always just feeling like you're drowning in expenses, then we're here to help you, okay? This is what Friday, day 5 is all about. But before then, we've got day 4. Nicola's going to be running it, so I can take a back seat and you can enjoy Nicola giving you the cracking the whip for your music collection.
Getting you organized, yeah, definitely.
That's it. All right. Julie says, finances and business. This is why I love you, Tim. You make me do things I hate. Good. I'm glad. I think that's a compliment.
No, definitely. Needs to be done.
Yeah. Have a look at Belinda's comment. I come for Nicola's smile and her accent. My boys love your accent, Nicola. Isn't that beautiful? Okay, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope that has started to, again, just help you refine your kind of path. I like the motive of a locomotive, the metaphor of a locomotive. You know, we're trying to lay tracks in a direction, and then we're going to put the train on it, and we're going to drive it towards that destination. If you haven't got the train tracks, you've got no train, you've got no path, you've got no destination. So that's what we're trying to do. Get you your own little train, or big train. I'm going to stop talking. I need some breakfast. All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow. Is that everything, Nicola?
Yeah, that's everything.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Great.
Okay. We'll see you all same time again tomorrow, guys, for day 4.
See you tomorrow, guys.